Hey everybody, I'm Rick Beato.
Rhett Scholl. Dave Honorato.
So today we're going to talk about things that we hope to see more of or that we wish would come back. But we have an announcement that Rhett is going to make.
This NAMM, in a couple weeks, the three of us are doing a panel at the Gibson booth. Friday at 1 p.m. at Gibson, we're going to be doing this discussion group, this podcast, this video panel, whatever we call this thing. We're going to be doing it at Gibson. So if you're going to be at NAMM, come to the Gibson booth Friday at 1 p.m. Cool.
Sounds good to me. I'll be there.
I will be too, hopefully.
We'll be there. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start off this discussion because it's something that I've been thinking about for the past couple of days. So I've been really into using my Universal Audio aux and the Shure reactive load.
Yeah.
And also my Iron Man 2.
Yeah, the Tone King.
King. They all are very different from each other. The Tone King, you need to use an actual cab simulator with it, which I have the Cab Zeus, which Rhett turned me on to. The aux has a digital interface on the computer that you plug in, and you can change the microphones and change the cabinets. And then the reactive load has I'm not sure how many presets set in it, but it doesn't really, I think it will hook up to the computer as well, but I haven't really figured that out. But for me, when I'm working here, to try to mic a cabinet myself is very difficult, especially since I have to actually move them. That's the hardest part. Now, it's easy to mic a cabinet and get a sound, but for the videos that I make for YouTube, it's much easier to have the amp on my rack and have the box, the aux box on top, and control the volume, also playing through Pro Tools. Just everything about it makes it really appealing. And you can use your pedals with it.
Yeah.
You can use, I just did an Instagram post yesterday or today where I used it's funny because I used the Shure and then I used the UA. I went through the Unison technology and I used the 1073 mic pre's, which are in the control room, but not out here where I make my videos. And then I used a Korg STD 3000 delay from UA, which sounds great.
Yeah.
And so I'm combining all these things, and this is really exciting to me, even though everyone knows that I love speaker cabinets, as you can see here. And I love miking speaker cabinets, and I have the gear to do it. But I think this is really exciting because you can use your pedals, and I still think that the amplifiers react much more naturally. Yeah, especially on bends.
Yeah, you get the same feel. It's compresses the same. I agree. I think they sound really natural.
Does anyone notice latency when using?
No, and I've actually been using them live exclusively. So my version of that, I have the Iron Man attenuator, and I actually just made a video about this where I talked about basically my favorite gear from the past year, and the reactive load is on there, the Iron Man attenuator is on there because of that ability to use your amps, your analog tube amps. You don't have to use a modeler, you don't have to use something like the Helix or Kemper or whatever, but you get the convenience, especially live. My main amp that I gig with and tour it with is extremely loud, too loud even for most stages. And so the rig I've been using is the Iron Man attenuator that has a DI out and going into the Cab Zeus and then running that into the front of house in our in-ear rig. So there's no mics on stage, and I just have the cabinet on stage for stage fill for volume, and it sounds better. It's more consistent, especially when you're traveling between venues. You don't have to worry about, miking up, getting the mic placed exactly on the speaker that's the same way it was the night before, or if you're on a smaller level, you're using different front of house engineers who have different mics and it's just a whole mess where you can eliminate that altogether. The thing that I really want to see more of, we're starting to see it a little bit, and I have a feeling, in fact, I know there's one company that's going to be debuting something new at NAMM that's in this realm, which is the tube amps with that cab modeling and impulse response capabilities built in.
Which the Shure does.
Well, but the Shure is not an amp. Like Rev makes the D20. That is an amp. It's a 6v6 amp.
What about Pete Thorne's had.
Oh wait, the PT-15 does that.
It does,
too.
yeah. It does.
Okay,
It has the IRs built into it.
Yeah, so Sir's starting to do it. Rev is starting to do it. I know of one other company that's going to announce something that's starting to do it. That to me is really exciting.
Yeah,
I think have it in one box.
Yeah.
I think that amp companies should be doing that and providing an interface with it.
Yeah.
To,
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, with mic placements and things like that. The one thing that that I know about when they do these impulse responses is that they want to use really neutral mic pre's. I was actually listening to Pete Thorne talk about this yesterday on a live stream. Yeah. And he was talking about that when Sir did theirs, they used really transparent mic pre's. You know, I don't know what that. You know, you would use something like a Grace mic pre or something that
that doesn't color it.
That doesn't color it at all.
Yeah.
Now, I personally like the color, and I want my impulse responses that have a mic pre associated with them. Although, the way that UA does it, you kind of have the best of both worlds because you can have the cabinets mic'd, and then you can come back through your console, which has almost no latency. It's unbelievable, actually, and you can switch the mic pre's. I was going between the 1073 and the Helios, and they have two versions of the 610 mic pre, and they and I think that's just an exciting thing in the future. Although I will never give up real cabinets. What about you, Dave?
Well, I agree. I mean, I still like moving air, and I still like the thing with having a real cabinet, you know, and doing a bunch of different miking, you know, you still get unique sounds that way. So that's you're never, you know, to me that's always more enticing. I mean, it's great. Obviously, the convenience of those boxes are amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so if you put it in perspective, how you're, you know, obviously live too. You know, but ultimately, if you got this and you got time to do it, you know, I mean.
If you have people that are moving the stuff around for you.
Right.
But that's the other thing too is like this now opens up the world of recording and music production to a whole new group of people who maybe don't have the means to be able to collect tons of different amps and cabs and mics and mic pre's and all the ancillary stuff that you. I mean, you were describing that signal chain earlier with the aux, and I'm just hearing a cash register go off in my head about like, okay, well, let's see, you're going through a 1073 mic pre, you were using that delay, which God knows.
I mean, you can't even find
get
them
anymore.
Man. Yeah.
So
when you can, I think they're $3,000 or something insane.
Last one I sold mine for like $2,200, and that was like 3 years ago. So
yes,
and that is just by the way, we're talking about the SDD 3000 by Korg, and this is the delay the Edge would use to push the front end of his amp. Daniel Lanois talked a lot about this.
Everybody used them, man. At one point it was like you had to have one of those if you were cool.
Is anybody making a reissue of that, a modern version of that?
Well, there's been some copies, but I would like to see Korg redo it. I would. I mean, that's a piece of gear that they could sell thousands of. You know, if it was fairly reasonably priced. Man, that's definitely something they need to put back out.
Or
for sure.
Strymon.
Yeah, and I was going to say a company like Strymon or something like that should capitalize on it.
They should definitely capitalize on that.
For sure. But I think stuff I'd like to see, you know, at NAMM and coming up, I want to see, you know, as we've talked about with the Tone Master Series Fender amps, I want to see Marshall, I want to see Vox, I want to see all the big heavies come out with a similar amp in their own version. Yeah. Because I'll tell you, I've gigged with that amp on and off the last month, and that's, man, I'm really blown away by it. You know,
that's saying a lot.
And and it's crazy because I mean we did that video maybe it was like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. I had 5 good friends of mine that were total tone snobs. Going like, okay, how much did they pay?
So people were thinking that I was getting paid.
Right, all of this. Like,
Rick is getting paid to say this.
Yeah,
like, I'm getting paid to put the thing 30 minutes into the
video. Right. You know, it's like, so I had 5 good friends of mine who have big vintage collections, and they, on my word, went and bought, you know, played them. Every one of them called me from like a big box store, going like, you know, you're right. This is ridiculous. This is like, and all of them, the shock. I could just tell they were like, I can't believe that, you know. And I said, yeah, we'll go play it on a gig. Yeah. Now most of the guys aren't gigging guys, but they took them home, cranked them up, and said, man, I put it next to my 68, 65. Honestly, I can't really tell much of a difference. And then the fact that those guys go, I never have to take my amp to get serviced is like, and then obviously with all the
well, if you're going to go to a gig too, I mean, that's...
yeah, right. So I want to see Marshall do heads. I want to do just go that far with it. Go across the board. 4 input Marshall 50 watt, 100 watt. That's this
13
right,
pounds.
right. But see, it looks just like it. I think
Right.
that's one of the appeals of that Fender amp.
Totally, man. Because I kept turning around looking at it, going, it's a real amp, but it's not. But it is, And so I want to see Marshall do it. I want to see Vogt do it. I think all of these guys, as long as they can get the tones right, I mean that's just a.
I mean, Vogt is doing it with, but they're not. But they're trying to do all the different things.
Right.
They need to make just
They need an
AC30.
AC15, AC30.
Yeah.
And just do it right, And so because it's one of those things. Like I hate to say it, but that Fender, even though it's not perfect, there's always room for improvement.
It's $150 too expensive,
right?
And
the direct out is a little.
They should have. There's 3 things that Fender needs to do to make that amp perfect. They need to drop the price $150.
Yeah.
They need to have a USB port on the back where you can update the amp, because the long-term thing of this is, sure, you spend the money to invest in it now.
Right.
Why not be able to release updates in the future?
Sure.
That's a 2-channel amp. So why not be able to load a 5E3 Tweed Deluxe circuit in the left channel and then a 64 Blackface Deluxe in the right channel?
Well, and I think, and also then you could also do it with the effects too. You could do it with the reverb, the vibrato. You could,
And they need to be. You need to be able to load your own impulse responses on it.
Yeah.
Because the 2 that come on it are not the best.
No, they're serviceable, and I didn't use the vibrato live. I used a little bit of the reverb, and the only other thing I would say about that amp that I haven't done and I want to change the speaker out to see how much it actually changes the tone
I'd be
of the
really
amp.
curious about that.
Because
that would definitely change
it definitely will, and I just want to see if it's going to...
What would you put in it?
I'd probably put either like a creamback or maybe...
I've got a UK greenback at home.
Yeah, or maybe... I've got a few different ones, and actually try to, some other ones that... Just to go across the span, like try 75, try 30, try 25, a creamback, all of that stuff, and even maybe an Alnico, and just to see how much it changes the amp. Obviously, it'll change the weight, but tone-wise, I want to see what it does. But
I think you have to be careful though, because I think technically it is like, I want to say it's like 100 watts.
So you definitely don't like if I put a 25 in it, I'm not going to nail it in front of it. So I'll use a pedal in front of it.
Yeah. So fair warning to anybody that owns your amp at home: don't just go slap.
But the nice thing about that is that it's got the power scaling.
Yeah, so you can just bring the power scaling back, but realize that if you crank it, it says 22 watts in the back, and it's misleading. It's actually like 100.
No,
okay, and for those of you that haven't seen Rhett's video, he actually made a great video on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
He actually made a great video. Believe that.
No, he actually did. He really did.
Yeah. But definitely, I think across the board, man, I think that whole wave of amps, that just opened the door for a lot of stuff. And even though it's not, basically they're just putting digital stuff in a new box and making it look old, there is more to it than that.
Yeah, but to me, that's what's really appealing about it.
Right, because so my mind's going, what I want to see is, I want to see like Roland do like a tape Space Echo reissue.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
And go that route with the tape Echo.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be phenomenal. Because then you eliminate the mechanics, but you get the sound of it. So it's pretty endless. How far you could take it. But I'd like to see something like that.
I was shopping for a 201 Space Echo the other day.
Yeah.
And God, they're just so expensive now, man.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, again, it comes back to this, where we are in terms of gear now. It's the big debate is the analog versus the digital stuff nowadays. And 10 years from now, I don't think we'll be having the same discussion as we are now. But I could get the Strymon Volante, for example. If you look at buying a Benson Echo Rec or an Echo Rec 2 versus buying the Volante, if you shot them out, I'm sure there's a difference between the real thing and the
There is, but
digital, but
you can't get a Benson Echo to work.
And
So that's
how do you
with it.
service things?
Right,
As these
right.
analog pieces of gear get older,
Yeah.
my tape machine, if you have a console, these things
Tubes,
need to be
everything, all of it.
They all need to be serviced, and there's just gonna be less and less people that are able to do this kind of work.
And the stuff is going to get so close that it won't make any difference.
But the interesting thing is that you will always need these things to compare to.
Yeah,
for
those
the
are the
sound.
benchmark.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I remember when I toured the PRS factory and I went into where they make their amps, and they have their A plus. I forget the name that they call it. The ones that are maybe the prototypes that they base everyone off of, that they always go back to, and they're on neatly placed and labeled on shelves, all the different makes with them. And I imagine all amplifier companies are like that. They probably have.
I'm sure some of them are,
that Marshall does, and here's a.
Well, it's like Fender.
68 Plexi.
And Gibson, they'll actually call guys in to have collections and say, "Hey, can we borrow your?"
Right. That's exactly what they're doing.
So they're So that's the way to do it, because then you can just obviously get the A tones right next to each other, and so. And then of course I'm sitting here thinking about more stuff. I'd like to see like some crazy stuff too, like Fox tone machines. Like actually take it to a pedal and do a Fox tone machine, and there's a bunch of them. So
well, I know that because I've talked to the guy that developed it, and some of the stuff, it has issues because of trademarks, and they can't get the proper trademarks for it, or it's not worth the money to develop it when it can't be protected, or or what you have to go through to get it. If you think about what Hiwatt's done, trying to consolidate the name between the UK and the United States over the last 20 years,
it's crazy.
It's been unbelievable.
Right.
It's really difficult.
Hiwatt's been in flux since the early '80s. With the name.
But at the end of the day, though, I think this stuff is good. I think this progression is good. And as, one of the advantages, it's a double-edged sword with the digital stuff, with the technology, right? The disadvantage is, so like a Kemper, for example. We've been speculating maybe this year will finally be the year that there's a new Kemper announced. Maybe not. It's almost 10 years old at this point.
It's almost 10 years old.
But the thing is, once that Kemper 2.0, whatever it is, comes out, my Kemper rack mount unit at home is going to be immediately worth half the price, or maybe less.
$500.
So maybe you should sell it right now.
Maybe I should.
Yeah.
Actually, if anybody's interested, I got a Kemper rack, non-powered, with the remote. No, but so that's kind of the negative of it, is you're playing that technology games like TVs. Remember when HD TVs came out? They're like $8,000.
I remember when TVs came out.
Okay, you're not that old. But now you can go get like an HD 1080p TV for a coupon and $15. So, but the other side of that is it's going to make this stuff a lot more accessible for more people to get into guitar and into music and into playing and getting good gear that is reliable and giggable and accessible for people. And I think at the end of the day, that's a pretty good.
Well, and I think
thing.
ultimately too, for pro guys that tour, everybody's gonna across the board, less weight. So it's not just
that's really why the move to Axe-Fx and Kempers and Helixes and these things has happened.
It's the pro guys are kind of like
the pro guys. They don't want to hire the people to move the stuff. It saves them a tremendous amount of money if you think about the back lines that you're bringing.
And it's consistency.
I was thinking though that the one thing that hasn't changed is that has changed is the guitar. It's changed in the way that people are playing extended range guitars. 7, 8, 9, 10 strings, whatever it might be. That has changed over the last 10 years. Obviously, the 7-string guitars. Steve Vai was a big 7-string player back 25 years ago now.
Sure. Yeah.
But the extended range guitars are really big, so that's been a really positive improvement. But that's one thing that it's not like you're going to have a digital guitar. They have digital guitars.
They've tried, but
the guitar, you can do all these things with software and amplifiers and everything, but you're always going to need the physical instrument. That's what that to me is what's so interesting about the guitar. So the cool things that have happened to me are the extended range guitars, because people have to find new ways to play them. You're you can be much more creative in the range of what you write.
Yeah.
You don't have to rely on having a bass player all the time. So I think that to me has been an exciting thing, and I look for more companies to develop this. I think it's good. I like that the companies like Gibson are returning to the great guitars that they made. To me, that's really exciting. And then the companies that are making these extended range guitars should make those.
Like Abasi Concepts.
Yeah.
That to me, they're like killing it in that market and in that lane. I mean, every time I see, and it's not just, progressive players that are playing them, and, like Justice West, I saw him playing one on a Tiny Desk concert, a few months ago, and it sounded awesome.
I think it's really visionary of Tosin to do that. A lot of the guys in that progressive, metal or instrumental guitar community, even if it's not instrumental, people like Misha from Periphery that have gone in and developed their own amplifiers, their own pedals. They have their signature guitars. Obviously Tosin with his really original guitar concept there. That to me is exciting when the players are out there doing the innovations, honestly, like Eddie Van Halen did.
Or Hendrix did.
Well, I was going to say,
did.
and we're getting to the point where I'm even seeing it on a level where, just your guys that are buying parts and putting stuff together at their house, those parts are getting so good on their own that it's leaps and bounds now, because everything's CNC, everything bolts in fairly well now, and so even across the board, the hobbyist is even, like Mark Jenny makes great bodies and necks, and in Warmouth you got all these companies out, where like 20 years ago you maybe had one company, now you've got tons of companies that you can get really good parts from, and with great finishes and good fretwork and all this stuff. So you can even, you don't have to go, well, I got to spend $5,000 on a boutique guitar. You can literally spend $1,000 to $1,500 putting a good guitar together for yourself, if you want to get into that.
If Dave does it.
Yeah. Well, no, but I'm saying, honestly, the work is so good that if you are competent enough, or at least watch some decent videos and get into it enough, you can, build yourself a guitar that's actually really decent and have fun with it and learn how to do it. I mean, yes, I would suggest going to, if you don't know what you're doing, go to somebody who does and have them either do it or show you, or, go that route. But even the parts, like I said, I've seen that stuff rise above with all this stuff too, because everything is going, up. It's everything's not crude anymore, So, but yeah, like Van Halen making his own stuff, Ryan May, all, I love guys that were, players that made their own stuff. I mean, Holsworth worked with Carvin for years. And Steinberger to make his models of stuff, and then he finally did his whole thing. Because I remember when they had the Fat Boy Carvin models, I briefly saw a thing with him where he said nobody would make the guitar for him. It was a hollow body, but it was this big. You can get on a plane with it. But it was a suspended hollow body, like a 175 with no center block in it. And nobody would make it for him. And he went to Carvin and said, hey, can we make a headless and do it? And they were like, yeah, we'll try it. And that was, that was a guitar that he ended up, it ended up being Kiesel after a while, but it was mainly Carvin that was the first one. He said that was the best guitar he ever owned, next to his SG. So.
Yeah. That he tried to, that's the one he always tried to get back to, right?
Yeah, right. He said that was always the guitar tonally he was trying to get back. So, yeah, But the Carvin stuff was always great, though. I played a lot of those Fat Boys. They were great guitars. You had to get used to them, but they were very cool, and they had their own tone and very... surprisingly loud for its size, and he had spruce tops on some of them, and it was really cool. It was cool design.
So another thing that is when you say spruce tops is guitars that are made out of things that are not necessarily woods, but more synthetic materials.
Composites and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's exciting. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen at NAMM. That's why I'm really looking forward to it. So you guys should come out and see us at Gibson on the that Friday, right?
Friday, 1 p.m. They'll be promoting it and talking about it.
Should be the 17th, yeah.
So come out, hang out with us, meet. and we'll all walk around and see what new pieces of gear that people are coming up with. This ought to be really exciting. Don't forget to follow Dave
Dojo Guitar Repair
on Instagram and Rhett.
Just Rhett Shaw on YouTube and Instagram.
And follow me, Rick Beato 1. Thanks for watching.